house at some point and
followed a
to
woman
study
here
act-
at
followed
the
a
age of
woman.
26. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you were following her, but you were also bit by the acting bug, or?
No, I was. The closest I had got to acting was I played trombone. I was in the University of Montana, and I was playing in the pit orchestra of Fiddler on the Roof.
Mm.
And I watched these actors every night, and it was shocking to me that they were doing what they were doing. It was so extraordinary. I'd never been that close to someone doing something like that, and I never thought that actors and people came from the same gene pool.
Oh,
You know,
right.
it was like actors were something else, but then I
Uh-huh.
saw these people doing this, and J.K. Simmons was actually the conductor of
No
the
way.
Pit Orchestra. Yeah, his father was the head
Love
of the
him.
music school. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So when you went to study acting,
Yeah.
you studied with someone named Ed K. Martin.
Well, I first studied with Maria Gobetti, and then
Okay.
she was a student of Ed's, so then I went
Mhm.
to Ed K. Martin.
And he has some pretty successful students. Yeah.
Rene Russo is a student of
Yeah.
his, and
I have Joyce DeWitt, Beth Henley, Mary Lou Henner,
Uh-huh.
Holly Hunter,
Uh-huh.
Aidan Quinn. That's
yeah.
pretty prestigious company.
Yeah, he was a force to be reckoned with.
Mm-hmm.
He was committed to the truth.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And he would just push you to go there yourself.
Mm.
And at that time, you know, consciousness is different today than it was 35 years ago. People are more. There's a lot more. 12-step groups, therapy groups. There's a lot more. It's okay to let your brokenness or bruisedness show,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not something to be hidden.
Yeah.
And it's okay to speak your truth in a different way than it was back then. And you know, we were all just coming out of homes where we had basically been raised by wolves to one degree or another, and learning how to have a voice, learning how to let the feelings be expressed.
Yeah. You had been raised by wolves too.
Well, they were good people. They just didn't have a clue. My father was, he suffered from massive PTSD from World War II. He had been blown up himself. Everyone in his unit was killed except him and one other guy. He spent a year in an army hospital with his jaw wired together. They had to rebuild it. He'd had to kill people. You know, he'd seen all of his friends die. And then they didn't talk about it. No one talked about it.
Yeah.
And then my mother, married him and expected it to be, her love to change him.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it didn't. But the fact is, they gave us a good home. We were always fed. We were always clean. We were always clothed. We had an education. But when you experience yourself as bereft
Yes.
and needy, how are you going to give to something else? It's not possible.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do, they're going to pay a price for it.
Yeah.
There's codependence. There's adult children of alcoholics. There's all of that. And also the theories of child rearing that they had. There's a book called The Drama of the Gifted Child by Alice Miller that was very big back in the 70s and 80s. It was one of the seminal works that came about that became Adult Children of Alcoholics. And in there she quoted a German child rearing book from the 18th century that said a child's will must be broken by the time they're 3.
Mm.
So it was like the Marines. You break the kid down, then you turn him into a proper human.
Wow.
And you cause them to pay attention to what others expect of them rather than to their spirit, their soul, their heart, their fine level of feeling.
Yeah.
So that's how they were raised, and they certainly weren't given any tools as to how to do it differently.
Yeah. Where do you think that you were able to be broken? Or did they try to break you, or?
Well, they bounced me around a lot.
They did.
It's okay. There is that within us that is perfect, pure, whole, and complete that can never be touched by anything that is done to us or anything that we do.
Mm.
That's the truth of me. All the other parts are the building of lessons that, as I progressively solve them through my life, bring me more in alignment with that inner truth.
Mm.
That's the way I see it.
Okay.
So that from the Vedic perspective, I chose exactly those people to have exactly those lessons, to learn exactly those tools that I've learned by walking through
Yeah.
what they handed me.
Yeah. At that time in your life, not when you were little, but at the time that we're talking about in Los Angeles after you moved here, did you have spiritual or religious beliefs?
Yes, I was raised Lutheran, and I felt that I was so far out of sync with what Lutherans wanted that God wanted me dead, basically. And so I had to deal with God that I would torture myself and he wouldn't have to get involved.
Wow.
And so I wouldn't let myself be happy
Mm.
like that.
The woman you moved out here to, that you chased out here, was did that
I love
last?
that. Chased, I love that.
You
No,
followed.
I followed.
Yes.
It lasted for a year.
It lasted for a year. Okay.
Yeah, after we got out here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then so you got married when you were how old?
35.
And how did you meet her, your first wife?
I had stopped drinking for 3 days on my own,
Uh-huh.
and
So stop there for a second.
Yeah.
What preceded that?
well, I got this. Okay, so being a human means feeling empty in some way. There's a need that we all have as humans.
Mm-hmm.
And we look for what's going to fill that. And the two ones that I was able to discern was love and or career.
Mm-hmm.
So I found love with this woman, and that didn't fix me.
Mm.
So, and I knew that she was taking my attention away from career, so I broke up with her.
Yes.
And then I committed to getting a big acting job.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I got the third lead in a Columbia motion picture, that was supposed to fix me, and nothing changed, like nothing, like zero. And I went out to celebrate that night and couldn't get drunk, and I knew I was going to blow the job if I didn't stop drinking. So I made a bet with my dealer. We were going to stay sober for 90 days, so that I could get high again.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So-
So that was the end game.
That,
was to get
just,
high again.
Just to be able to get the relief. And drugs and alcohol were my buddy.
Mm.
They were the thing that never let me down. Now suddenly they weren't working. Drugs, alcohol, and dogs. Those were what never let me down.
Yeah. Okay, so then you're 3 days into this.
I'm
90
3 days into this.
Yeah.
I thought, what a bad idea. I need something.
Yes.
Just to take the edge off.
Yeah.
And I went to the gym instead, and I was trying to get onto a bicycle, and
Uh-huh.
the pedal wasn't cooperating. It just kept spinning around every time I approached it with my foot.
Uh-huh.
And this woman on the next bike took off her Walkman head. Remember Walkmans?
Mhm.
Took off her headset and said, "I'm sorry, are you okay?" I said, "Oh, don't worry about me. This is just the effect of no chemicals in my system. I'm sure it'll pass."
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "I haven't had any chemicals in my system for, a year and a half."
Mm-hmm. And then, so you're, 30 at this point?
32?
32? And you have a child?
No,
No.
she was the mother of my child.
Okay.
He was born when I was 35.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so how is that? Are you excited? Your son is born? Like,
Oh,
you're
that was
excited to be a dad?
oh my God. Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, it was huge for me.
And were you still not drinking and?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you were sober for all intents and purposes.
Sober and batshit crazy.
Right.
You know.
Right.
Just
You were abstinent.
I was abstinent. Let's
Yes.
go with that.
Yeah. But you were excited about your son, and he's born. And what does that look like for you?
I didn't sleep for 2.5 years. I was up with him every single night.
Mm.
It was, that there was this one moment where he was about 6 months old. It's 3:30 in the morning. I'm just exhausted, and I'm changing his diaper, and he pees right in my face. Just straight up.
Boys are wonderful for that.
Oh my God! And this voice came up in me and just said, "Sure, you take care of him, but what about me?" And it was this. I was forcing myself to not. It's weird because I was already looking for spiritual answers at that point, but not really finding them, that they went in and they touched me. I had awakened something, having a kid had awakened something in me that, that you can't explain it to someone else unless it happens to them. Having a kid is a lot like taking LSD.
Oh.
It changes your life, and it's not possible to describe it to someone else in any real fashion.
That's great.
Right?
Yeah. That's really great.
It's like, you'll have one, and it'll change you.
It'll change you.
Yeah, and so that had changed me, but still, I hadn't connected the dots to where giving is actually a gift to myself, which is what real spirituality and service is. It's not just do it over here and it fixes you over here. It's that doing it from here is what this is all about.
Yeah. So let's move forward a little bit to your only one in the room story. You're a cuckold.
So this is
Yes.
Ex-wife number 2.
Yes. This is Kelly.
This is Kelly. Yes, it is. Hi, Kelly.
I used to watch her show.
She wrote a book called "If You Have to Cry, Go Outside."
Yes. And other things your mother should have told you or something.
Yeah.
That's like the...
I love Kelly. Kelly introduced me to the Veda.
No way.
Yeah.
Really?
She was a devotee of the Mother Mira Alfasa, who was the spiritual partner of Sri Aurobindo. And Sri Aurobindo was the greatest Vedic sage of the 20th century. And there's a place in South India outside of Pondicherry called Auroville, which they founded in the early 70s, where it was supposed to be an international village, some 5,000 acres or something. And Mother Mira was Sri Aurobindo died in 1950, but she had carried on his work. And it was all about, finding unity and oneness and spreading love. And so she had a teacher in Auroville, and I went to India the first time with her on our honeymoon. And it was our marriage was kind of a train wreck.
Why is that?
Because she married me for my potential, and I married her because she wanted to get married.
Oh, yeah.
And I went against my own truth getting married, and it's like we just never. We shouldn't have been married. We weren't a match. And once you go beyond past your own truth, and you do it for someone else's truth, it was the universe offering me the lesson that I hadn't been able to learn with my mother, which is, you can't do it for someone else. You just can't. And I tried desperately to do that. And it was 2001, and I did a movie in Romania with Casper Van Dien and Greg Henry. I went from there to India, and I spent, 5 weeks there with the express purpose of figuring out how to leave the relationship or go all in, because I felt myself teetering, just like constantly questioning, and And my friends there, our friends there, Mikhail and Mary, they're spiritual nuts. And Mary Premila is this English woman who's lived there for 40 years and smokes these little beaties and does translation for these big strapping Brahmins and speaks 5 languages. She's amazing. They took me to this temple this Shiva temple in Tiruvannamalai, and it's this huge Shiva temple, and it's very, there's stories about elephants there, and there's a place where the priests do what they do, and that's interesting. And then we're leaving town. They said, "Do you want to see the Kali temple?" Do you know who Kali is? Mm-hmm. So Kali means black, but Kali is like this.
I have a niece named Kali.
Oh, well, so Kali is the goddess of destruction.
Oh.
But she destroys that which is no longer relevant.
Oh.
So it's
Okay.
necessary.
She's selective.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So we went to this Kali temple, and there's this Kali, and I look at her, and she's, and they have different forms of Kali. There's the gentle form, and then there's the harsh form. And they had this gentle form here, or the harsh form, but she was a harsh form made out of a gentle form. Mm-hmm. And then when you're leaving, you come around the corner, and there's the gentle form that's telling you goodbye and blessing you, but they had made a harsh form into a gentle form. And it was like I saw this life-size statue, and I couldn't move. Mm-hmm. She was covered in this kumkum, which is that red powder, and there was just one black eye staring out at me, and I literally just stopped in my tracks, and my friends kept going, and out of me came this prayer: "Please take away that which is no longer relevant." And I just stayed there for a while, and my friends came back and said, "What's going on?" And like the spell was broken, and we went off. And a couple days later, I called my wife and I said, "Are you fucking around on me? We've been together 7.5 years, and that had never occurred to me."
Are you back in the States?
No,
now?
I'm still in India.
You're still in India. Okay.
And she said, "No, baby," and you had to go to a special calling station to call then. There were no cell phones or anything. "No, baby, why would you say that? Are you having fun?" And all that. And and then I went there was at this ashram, there was this guy who had been there since 1952, and he had been a dresser on Broadway. And his house was filled with little statues that he changed their clothes every day. He made clothes for them. And he was like 80 years old at this point, and he was a hoot. And I went to visit him, and we're sitting on his veranda, and he's like putting up with the Westerner who's there, and I'm okay. And he's getting ready to go to bed. He says, "Do you want to meet her?" I went, "I'm sorry?" He says, "I never ask anyone this, but do you want to meet her?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And so we go down the veranda to this other door, and it's got these big old-fashioned locks on it, and he takes these skeleton keys out, and he opens 2 different locks, and then swings the door open, and there's another life-size Kali sitting there in a throne. And from her, I feel the message, "Are you sure?" And
wait, remind me of the question you asked her the first time.
"Please take away that which is no longer relevant."
Okay.
And she says,
And now
"Are you
she's saying,
sure?"
"Are you sure?"
And I said, "Yeah."
Yeah.
And and then the next day I called my wife, said, "You sure you're not fucking around with me?" "No, baby, when are you coming home?" I get home, and she's been fucking around with me.
Yeah.
And I find out a week later that she's pregnant with another man's child. And it was like my house had burned down. And I needed that last bit of the pregnant with another man's child, because like I told you before, if my house had burnt down and the chimney was still standing, even if the fireplace had never worked, I would have built a new house around that fireplace. Because I didn't know I didn't have the tools to just start from scratch.
Yeah.
And the fear quotient is so high as these animals that we are, to hold on to something, anything. Because it feels like we're supposed to know something and we don't.
Yeah.
but she had just, that, you know, her being pregnant just wiped the boards clean.
Mm. So you were still abstinent at this point?
Yeah, yeah.
And
for a long time.
For a long time.
And miserable.
And now you have this,
yeah,
which has come into your life. How do you handle that?
I not well.
Yeah.
You know, I was sleeping on the basement floor of a young friend's house. And,
on the actual floor?
I had a pad.
Like a pad on
yeah,
the, yeah.
Yeah, a pad on the floor and a sleeping bag.
Mm.
You know, I fell apart. I mean, I just really fell apart in every real fashion. Just wept a lot. And like our community, I felt just exposed. That's the cuckold factor.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, you hear what happened to him?
Yes, yes.
But there's, I hope I can tell this story properly. Along with that, shortly after that, I'm living in this basement hovel, and I had a Boston Terrier from the marriage that I had, and she was eaten by coyotes. We were up by the Hollywood sign. That's where the home was. And then my large screen TV got knocked off the table and landed on my Martin guitar. So everything that mattered to me was gone. And I there was a community meeting just where we witnessed for each other, and I had talked about this. And there was a guy there who was like, you know, I don't know, 2 weeks, 3 weeks not drinking. And he was just miserable. He was a 250-pound Irish kid. And he was just like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing here, you know, like that. And I, you know, I talked about what was going on in my life. I came back the next week, and he was still there. And I went, John, you're still here? He says, yeah. I heard this guy. His wife got pregnant with another man's kid. His dog was eaten by coyotes, and his TV fell on his guitar. That fucker can stay sober.
I love that guy.
That's great. That's great.
And I just started laughing. I said, yeah, that was me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You know, I
that
gave
was
him a big
me.
hug.
Wow. And so that's the beginning of your healing from that?
It was, you know, because I really dropped every pretense of, here's the thing about being a human. You come into this world, and people expect you to know how to do it. They expect you to know how to, you expect yourself to know how to fall in love, how to have sex, even though you've never done it, how to have a job, even though you've never done it, how to, hopefully your parents teach you how to be respectful of others and these sorts of things, but everything is new, and there are no classes in how to be a human being.
Right.
And so you pretend and try to pick up, you know, the cues along the way, so that at a certain point you can stop pretending. But do you ever really? I don't know. You know, I felt like I was pretending to be a human a lot of my life. And so you end up having a life that is supposed to fulfill you, and it doesn't.
Yes.
And then at a certain point you just go like, none of this works, and you just throw it all away and say, whatever is real, whatever is relevant should be apparent.
Yes.
And so when you let everything go, then you start to find what is relevant. You start to find what resonates inside of you, and you start to, like for me, I just insisted I would do nothing unless the inside of me told me it was worth doing. I would do nothing for someone else because they wanted it. And, you know, and it really helped me to learn that if it's not right for me, it's not right for you either. Can't be. It's not possible.
Right.
Because the Veda says that there's only one thing. And if it's not right for me, it's not right for you, because we're the same thing. Underneath our differences, we're the same. It's not like there's a soul here and there's a soul there. We are two expressions of this one whole complete thing. And we're having an experience of this one whole complete thing recognizing itself in the other.
That's one of my favorites of your daily thoughts that you send out.
Well,
Yeah.
but this is, you know, my theory of your show.
Yeah.
Is the only one in the room. If we can imagine that before we come into these bodies, we're spirit, and there's a certain amount of individuality that we're having, but we're sort of looking down over the edge, going like, I guess we got to go back in, you know.
Yeah.
But we're feeling connectedness. And the whole point is we go back in until we can come back and know ourselves as the one whole complete thing. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
And you say, okay, I'm going to go in, and these are the lessons that I'm willing to learn this time. You sure? Those look like big ones. Yeah, I'm tired of messing around, so let's go. Okay, I'll see you when we get back.
Yeah.
And you dive in, and there's actually a thing that happens when the baby gets to be about 6 weeks old. They start to get really fussy.
Yeah.
The Veda says that's because they're starting to forget where they came from.
Oh.
And they're like going, no, I can't, that's me, I can't forget that. And then you forget. You
Wow.
forget completely. And then you feel like there's something missing.
And that's what you search for?
And that's what you're searching for always, is where's
Yeah.
that missing piece? And our mind tells us it's because you are this, you are that. We all have these, you know, I'm the only black woman in the room, I'm the only cuckold in the room, I'm the only fat kid, I'm the only, you know.
Everybody's something.
Everybody is something, and it's your mind making sense of this feeling of separation and why.
Yeah.
And what's really happening is the whole point of being here that I've been able to discern is to know ourselves as that oneness, even though we're living in these separate bodies.
So, thank you for all that. You asked Kali to strip away all that was not relevant. She granted that. And so what did you find that was relevant? What was left? What was important?
Did you know Lauren Dombrowski? She was a friend of ours who passed away probably 7, 8 years ago now. She was a producer on Mad TV. She and I used to ride horses all the time. And when she passed away, I thought I was going to be asked to speak at her memorial, and I realized I had nothing to say because we spent time together. And it was some of the most extraordinary time I ever spent with another human being. And what we were doing, we were just being with each other. So there was, you know, she didn't tell me a lot of funny stories, and you know, the experiences we had were all just these unity experiences of riding horses together and feeling that feeling of bliss. And bliss is not a euphoria, it's actually feeling that nothing needs to change, that this is perfect exactly as it is. That's what bliss is. And all my time with Lauren was blissful. There's nothing to say about that. And so finding everything that is not in that direction, and at least knowing the truth that I am not those things that my head tells me I am, and then finding out what is still there when all of these untruths have fallen away. It sounds really esoteric, but the truth of me is the same as the truth of life, which is the same as the truth of you, which is there is nothing in this world that can offer me any amount of fulfillment, nor can anything in this world take away from the fulfillment that I am. That all is from the inside. So when I have a felt need in the world, that's an indication for me to move in that direction. It's not an indication for you to feed me.
Mm.
that you need to give me something. It's an indication that, you know, I don't know why I'm going there, but I know it's not to get, it's to give.
Mm.
I am fulfillment itself. That's the nature, that's the very basis of what I am. I am fulfillment itself. And then needs occur to me to get me to go someplace where my fulfillment is needed.
Yeah.
And so we go into each situation offering of ourselves rather than looking what we can get.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I'm looking for what I can get, then it becomes a transactional world, and we're always either owing somebody or owed to. We're never okay, ever. You know, we pass through okay, you know, like a broken clock is right twice a day, you know.
Yeah.
We pass through, but we're never really filled up. We're never fulfilled. We're never okay.
Yeah.
So when I know that it's about, you know, they say it's an inside job, it's my
Yeah.
connection to that and my identification with that within, then I can walk into each situation asking what I can give.
Mm.
Doesn't mean that I have anything more to give than anyone else. It just means that that's the equation that works for me.
Well, and that brings me to the other story I wanted you to tell, which
Mm.
was that you had a period of estrangement from your son.
Yeah, there was a couple of years where he said something like the cost of my involvement in his education was more than what he was getting from me, or something like that. It was just, I don't know, it was a real asshole thing to say. It made me crazy. It was like he wanted me to leave him alone.
Mm. And how old was he?
He was 18, and he had, you know, he was going to school and he was fucking off. He was just, and it was like, you can go to school and fuck off, I don't care, but not Carnegie Mellon.
Right.
It's $50,000 a year,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Come to, you know, LA Community College and fuck off there. I'm,
Mhm.
you know, pay for that all day long. But,
Yeah.
and you know, and his mother was, she supported him in this. We'll take care of it. Don't worry about it.
Mhm.
Tell him to fuck off. And he did. So he told me to fuck off. He asked me not to talk to him. And then he was home from school after this had been going on for some time, and we hadn't spoken for a long time, and he sent me a text the day before he was leaving, or 2 days before he was leaving back to school, and said, I'd like to have dinner with you tomorrow night, but we can't talk about any of this stuff. Just, I was like, my head had wanted to explode. Like,
Yeah.
how do I have dinner and not, you know.
Are you
not
angry, or are you?
Oh yeah, I'm angry, I'm upset, I'm ashamed and guilty, and what did I do wrong? And, you know, he later told me, you know, you and my mom had two completely different versions of reality, and I couldn't keep both of them in my head at the same time. That's what he told me. So I talked to a friend about how can I do this, and, you know, my friend laughed at me and said,
As a good friend would.
yeah.
Yes.
And he said, listen, go and have the experience you'll be glad you had when you're 80.
Mm.
You know, and when I'm 80, I go like, boy, there was a chance for me to maybe heal with my son, and I didn't take it. Do I want that experience? No. I'm the adult. I'm the father. I'm supposed to be able to hold all of him, not just the way I want him to be. And so I went and I had that. It was a really uncomfortable dinner, but we had it. And what I learned was, I don't need your permission to love you. And nor does love have to look the way I think love is supposed to look. I don't know how love is supposed to look. I know love is something that I feel moving through me, not coming to me.
Right.
The love that feeds me, that fills me up, is the love I'm having for you, not the love I'm getting from you.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, it's about that fulfillment moving through me to the place where it is needed. And my son clearly needed, you know, some love.
Mm-hmm.
So, another thing is that you can offer me offense, but I have to take offense to be offended.
Mm.
And
That's true.
right?
Yeah.
I take offense
that's
at
what they
that.
say. You take
Yeah,
offense.
You take
yeah.
offense.
Yeah.
And so, it's like if you come to me and say, you know what, Jeff, you're an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I'm being real, I'll say, you know what, I know that sometimes I am a real asshole. I don't remember being an asshole to you. Tell me more.
That's great.
And then you'll tell, and what you're giving me is a report on your state of consciousness, not a report. You can't give me a report on me. I've lived with me for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
It's not possible for you to know me better than I know myself. And it's not possible for me to have been an asshole to you and not know it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know myself. Right?
Yeah.
So, I'm defined by my connection to the divine within.
Mm-hmm.
And I then offer that in my life. And some places it's accepted, some places it isn't.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not my business.
Mm-hmm.
And so with my son, he offered me plenty of offense, and like the way we talk now, because we talk a lot now, and he'll I'll say something that will make him shut down. Oh, this, once again you give me that dogmatic bullshit. And I said, oh, hold on, I wasn't trying to give you dogmatic bullshit. Tell me, how did that happen? What was that? And he'll say this and this. Oh, I can see why you would have heard it that way. This is actually what I was trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll let go of his defensiveness, and suddenly we're having a real communication again.
Well, he lets go of his defensiveness, but you've heard something that you decide not to take offense. You decide not to take the offense. You make a decision, or are you just practiced enough now that you don't?
So it's both.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'll feel it come up in me, but with him, I don't. If I feel defensiveness come up in me, I guess I ask myself the question enough after the fact. It's like, what do I have to defend?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm 65 years old. You know what? I know my father lived to the age of 56. I'm in gravy time now, and it's like the whole point of my life from this point forward is to just be what I am on the plus side of things.
Yeah.
So if you're going to point out the negative sides of me, what there's no payoff to defending it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're someone who's just being hurtful, then I'm not going to hang out with you anymore.
Yes. Yes. That's my philosophy too.
But he's my son.
Right.
So
Well, yeah.
so I'm going to, he's going to flail around and have, whatever experience he has, but he's coming toward me now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's my job to recognize that, to be wide enough for him to do it in any way that he needs to do it.
Yeah.
And now that said, there came a point when I went off. I just said, you know what? I've been trying to make up shit to you for my whole fucking, for the last however many years since, your mother and I split up. I'm done.
Mm.
We either start from even or and I said, you don't talk to your father that way. He says, I'll talk any way I want. I said, yes, you will. And I get to decide how close I am to you when you talk that way.
Mm.
So keep talking that way, but I'm not going to be here.
Yeah.
And so that came too. There's no formula for this.
No.